We'll talk to Marcellus Wiley, former defensive end, host of More To It podcast on Dan Patrick Podcast Network. He'll join us in a moment. His interview this week is with a former teammate, LaDainian Tomlinson. And here is a clip where LT talks about reuniting with his father.
You reconciled your relationship with your father. Talk about mending that fence and how it all came full circle. Playing ball, Daddy and I back with a great relationship and heading to the league.
Man, it was one of the greatest moments in my life. Not understanding much about my father. Now, to understand, my father was older. You know, he was, let me do the math, late 40s.
Yeah, that's me.
So when he had me, he was late 40s. So I didn't get a chance to really know him until I got to college. And I can go back, home and visit him. And we used to sit on that porch, Marcellus. Me and my pops just sit on the porch and talk. And I got a chance to understand a lot about myself talking to him.
That's LT, and it's the latest podcast from Marcellus Wiley. More To It is the title with Marcellus Wiley, wherever you listen to podcasts, also danpatrick.com. Marcellus joins us on the program. Again, give me the move yesterday that happened or didn't happen where you went, things that make you go,
Oh, man, a lot of chips are getting pushed into the middle. A lot of teams are going all in. You got to love what you see out of these Miami Dolphins right now in a situation where they feel like they have what they need to get over the hump. And when you go out there and you get a pass rusher and you get a guy as tremendous as they did, and all of a sudden you start to look at this team and you start to see how complete it looks. I've always been a believer in Tua, never understood why he didn't have enough equity in terms of being a potential franchise quarterback. Obviously got a little derailed this year because of the concussion and everything that happened earlier, but this team believes in him now to the point where now they're pushing their chips in the middle and say, let's get over this hump.
Okay, but if I compare Miami to Buffalo now, how does Miami compare after adding Bradley Chubb?
Yeah, I mean, Buffalo's a better team. I was answering the question to the terms of which team did the best to improve their chances, but look at Buffalo. They're already close, if not the favorite to win it all. Been scratching at it, clawing at it. Obviously, KC has been a barrier for them, but Buffalo seems like the team that's poised to do it, not only because of their issues of coming up just so short, but also the fact that they've still added talent and Josh Allen's playing at an MVP level.
Packers didn't do anything, but why are we surprised that they didn't do anything? They don't do anything during the draft for Aaron Rodgers. Why would we think they were going to do something at the trade deadline?
I think that's the greatness of Aaron Rodgers that makes us always think that something else is around the corner. Whether it's every single draft, you're waiting for that receiver to get drafted, and they never do it in the first round, early rounds. And then you say, well, it's Aaron Rodgers. He'll make up for the difference. And then even for this, the trade deadline, you're thinking, oh, they're going to do something. Oh, they're doing it. Well, Aaron Rodgers will make up the difference. There's something about Aaron Rodgers in that building and his command. Obviously, we know he's eating up a ton of that salary cap and his 4 MVPs and his greatness as a Super Bowl champion. But sometimes I think it gets exaggerated. They're thinking a little too much about Aaron Rodgers and him fixing all problems.
Yeah, but I wonder what that's like when Brian Gutekunst, the GM, passes Aaron Rodgers in the hallway today.
Well, I think Brian gets out the way more than Aaron gets out of his way. I've seen that before. I remember the days where Marty Schottenheimer and his greatness, and he was a San Diego Charger coach, 14-2, but him and the general manager and A.J. Smith had such a beef that when they saw each other in the hallway, they immediately would go back into their offices. Like they couldn't even walk down the hallway at the same time. Let's just say that organization at that time wasn't functional.
And Chase Claypool, he looks like he's great. He's just not great. And now he goes to the Bears. I thought that might be the Packers might look at taking Chase, making a trade with, for Chase Claypool.
Yeah, I'm a big believer in Chase Claypool, but I've always been fooled by the talent lens. Like I just look at an athlete and the tangibles just jump out at you to the point where you're like, he's big, he's fast, he can catch, he can run good routes. Like that's the man. But he's had some issues in terms of focus and distractions that I think Pittsburgh said enough is enough. Let's get rid of him while the talent is there still, and we can see that other teams still find value in him.
We're talking to Marcellus Wiley, the former NFL defensive end and host of More to It, the podcast on the Dan Patrick Network. We talk about OBJ as if OBJ is going to come back and he's going to change a team. He's had 2 surgeries on that same knee. And at that position, with what he relies on, what exactly would you expect whoever picks up OBJ for the second half of the season? What are they getting?
One, they're getting energy. The thing about OBJ, he plays his best when he's in the room. His energy, the osmosis of that energy is contagious. Like everyone feels it. Everyone believes in his higher potential. He's one of those guys because he's made those highlight plays. He became a superstar in the NFL, and you can count those guys on 2 hands. He became one of the guys that everyone looked up to in some form or fashion of like, wow, he's killing it. When that guy's on your roster and he still looks like a semblance of that, you believe in it. It's just that simple. Until he proves you wrong, you're always going to give him the benefit of the doubt. So with OBJ, I still think you're going to get some potential. This is a dude last time healthy was about to win the Super Bowl MVP, but then got injured. So I think they still believe in him.
Why is it every surgery on an athlete is successful?
Because you're listening to the doctor. He has business to run. Every single time he cuts you open and then he closes you up and you're not bleeding anymore, success. That's it.
How many surgeries did you have?
I think like 9. Back, abdominal wall, shoulder, Achilles, foot. Did I say my knee? About 6. Tonsillitis doesn't count.
Is that a lot though for an NFL player? 6 surgeries?
I would say it's about, for a guy who started, who got some reps in there, a little below average, maybe average. But the thing is, I had horrible timing. Mine came first-year starter, contract year, in my prime. Like they were like, "Ooh, Wiley's amazing." Damn, what happened to that dude? That's what happened.
Yeah, I always say when they're like, "Oh, it's minor surgery." Minor surgery is when it's on somebody else.
Yes. It's crazy because, man, every time you go under, this is the toughest part about surgery. It's not your injury. It's not your surgery. It's not even your rehab. The toughest part is getting back on that field and playing with the same trust and recklessness as you did before. So that 6th gear, that Ferrari 6th gear that you rarely touch when you were in the zone, when you had the glow, Bruce Leroy, when you're that guy, and then you get hurt, you have to climb back up that hill, that mountain. Physically, surgery, rehab, but mentally is the hardest part, to plant that flag back and say, I'm back. Most guys don't get back to that place. Somehow, some way, some fear kicks in.
We had a conversation last hour with Mike Tannenbaum, former GM in the NFL. I said, you can start your team with anybody. Let's take away all the quarterbacks. Is it obvious who you would start your team with, non-quarterback?
Oh, wow. Non-quarterback. Aaron Donald just jumped in my head, and he took up most of space. T.J. Watt jumped in my head. He took up most of space.
Micah Parsons?
Micah Parsons, amazing. Yeah. I've seen more from those other guys than Micah Parsons, but hey, Micah Parsons as well. I certainly would go defender and more than likely an edge rusher. I wouldn't be fooled by a receiver, because a receiver is a dependent position. You need your quarterback. I wouldn't be thinking running back, obviously not the same impact. It would be a defender, one of those 3 names, but probably Aaron Donald, more T.J. Watt.
What about Myles Garrett?
He's a monster. He's a lot to deal with. For that size, still has the quickest get off in the NFL as they time it. Unreal. Maybe it's the Cleveland effect, like they just don't get over the hump. Something about he doesn't make the same impact plays when they count the most as I've seen from T.J. Watt and Aaron Donald.
Your current MVP is?
I mean, Josh Allen last game kind of made me say, should I keep saying he's playing at MVP level? But look, he's already set a standard right now. And because Buffalo is playing so well, I would say all things considered, Josh Allen. Look, you look at Jalen Hurts right now. He's like, dude, I'm perfect. Like, my team is perfect. I know it's not all because of me, but everyone said this team would fail or succeed based on Jalen Hurts. Well, they're perfect, unblemished. Got to be Jalen Hurts in that conversation as well.
More likely to make the playoffs, the Rams or the Chargers?
Go Chargers. I'll say Chargers. They don't have the hangover effect that the Rams are dealing with, on top of some feudal play, on top of Matthew Stafford's not completely healthy right now. So with Justin Herbert and his team getting healthy, Keenan Allen's back, you start to get Bosa back later in the season. I say the Chargers make a late run.
The best quarterback performance you ever witnessed up close was turned in by who?
Oh, man. Dante Culpepper. Early Randy Moss, Chris Carter. I think it's Randy Moss's rookie year when he had 17 touchdowns. And I remember in prep for that game, Coach was saying, Randy Moss is faster than you see on film. And then we were like, yeah, okay, he's a rookie. Like, no one gave him that much credit. He's still a rook. We get in the game and we're up. And we're in the dome, and they're piping in false music and noise and like illegal stuff. It's just loud. And all of a sudden it's quiet because we're up. And then we have the ball, and it's like a few seconds left to go, something like that. And Coach said, I remind you, Moss is faster. Now, we done played 58 minutes. We know how fast he is. We all right. We're winning. We're good. And we win in some prevent defense, which basically means it prevents you from winning the game. And so we're like 90 yards back. Even the D-line is like 20 yards back. And Randy Moss did one of those, and Culpepper, get your roll on Culpepper, threw the ball to the moon. It came back down. The astronaut was Randy Moss in the end zone, and they ended up beating us. That was crazy. He had an electric game that time.
Culpepper was bigger than you, wasn't he?
Yeah, in many ways, like physically, his stature. People forget Culpepper was a dude in this league. Doing the get your roll on, he had a little phenomenon following him at a time. He was a beast, but he could play the ball. He could spin it, man. And when he had Moss and Carter, it was silly.
Then he got hurt. Never the same.
Yeah, that prime. I told you, man. It's not the injuries. It's coming back to think you could do the same thing you did pre-injury. Most athletes I've ran into have actually failed that test. It's crazy.
Great to talk to you again. Congrats on the podcast success. It's More to It with Marcellus Wiley. Talks to LaDainian Tomlinson. And once again, the podcast is not just about the sport. It's about the person. And that's what I love. What you went a deep dive with LaDainian Tomlinson. Thank you, Marcellus.
All right. Thank you, Dan. Talk to you soon.
Marcellus Wiley, former NFL defensive end. And you can get that podcast at danpatrick.com.